Hey, yo, brothers, I'm watching the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and the topic of this video today, brothers, is going to be gentrification. Brothers, gentrification is essentially when you kick out low-income housing people, you kick out the Section 8 people, you remove all the negativity, the corrosion, and all the bad people out of a neighborhood and put in rich people into that neighborhood, wealthy people into that neighborhood, higher income earning people into that neighborhood. There are various ways in which people go about the process of gentrification, but in general, that's what gentrification is. You giving an opportunity to develop a certain region where a lot of poor people live. Today, what's prompting the topic of this conversation is the Browns owner, the Cleveland Browns owner, Jimmy Haslam, $13 billion ready to build a new stadium that includes a dome. And he wants the city of Cleveland, the taxpayers of Cleveland, to pay for it, pay for half of it at least. Brother, something you have to understand is in order for the city of Cleveland to do that, that would require what I just said, gentrification. Because in order for the Cleveland Browns to build a new stadium and the city of Cleveland, the taxpayers pay for it, you would have to have wealthy people living in Cleveland, a lot of wealthy people living in Cleveland. And that would require that you kick all the poor people out. So the first thing that would happen is they would raise the sales tax, or not the sales tax, excuse me, the property tax. Now, if you're a landowner, business owner, whatever it may be, and you landowner and you are lending out the tenants, renting out the tenants, now you're going to have to raise their rent. Now, if you were paying for certain utilities like water and things of that nature, because there's a lot of places that will pay for your water, you don't have to worry about a water bill. Now they're going to start charging you a water bill because they need that money back. They're going to raise up rent prices, your utilities, you're going to have to pay for all of them now. And what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to be homeless and out on the streets. A lot of people are going to be forced out of that area and into a new one. That's what's going to happen because the vast majority of people are living paycheck to paycheck. And the vast majority of people are their rent being raised $200-300 away from being out on the street. That's the reality. Because most people are living a lifestyle that they cannot afford. Brothers, most of us live a lifestyle that we cannot afford. And it starts one of the number one things you can control, if anything else, is your diet. Your diet. People are spending way too much money on out to eat food. You're spending $15-20 a day on fast food. That $15-20 could be used to make a meal that can sustain yourself for 3 or 4 days. If people stopped having such a rich person's appetite, they would be able to save so much more money. But most people do not do that. A lot of people like to smoke marijuana. You smoke marijuana, that's on you. But if you have an addiction to marijuana to the point where you're smoking 2-3 blunts a day, that's going to be very expensive, extremely expensive. A lot of people like their alcohol. That is an expense. People drinking Hennessy weekly, if not 2-3 times a week. Whole bottles. That can become an expense. $50-60 a week easily. You go into the club on a Friday night, you get an eighth of weed, you get a fifth of a Henny. That's $100 right there. $100 easy right there. Your lifestyle. You can't. A lot of us cannot afford to go out. A lot of us can only afford to stay in. A lot of us cannot afford these lavish meals. Some people can only afford noodles that night, and they're out here balling and spending money that they really don't have. Maxing out credit cards, not saving. These are the things. These are the problems in America. America has a huge problem with financial literacy. That's something that is not taught in school. And that alone is why the school system is failing America. That's automatically right there why the school system is irrelevant in America, because it is not teaching you financial literacy. Financial literacy is literally the most important thing in this society. This is a capitalistic, debt-based economy. Why are we not learning about finances early on in life? Why are we not learning about the economy? That should be required, not art, not gym, not science, not social studies. None of that. That stuff is BS. All this other stuff is BS. If a person does not know how to use and utilize their finances to the best of their abilities, they're not going to be successful in this world. They're going to be a failure in this world. They're going to be a failure in this world. And a lot of people are not poor because they don't make enough money. They're poor because they spend too much money. But anyways, brothers, let's go ahead and tap into this.
To pay for half a new stadium.
Whew, I need a minute. I need a minute. So first things first, 13.65 billion. That's a whole lot of money. But I guess I doubled down on my original stance of Jimmy Haslam should pay for it. And before anybody jump in here saying, well, you know, if the city wants any part of the shared revenue or whatever, they should pay for it, and that's cool. I respect that if you're a resident from the city of Cleveland. But if you're making $100,000 plus and you don't even live in the city of Cleveland, I have a hard time hearing you tell actual residents that's in the city to pay for it. But check this out. According to the article, and Steve, you could pull this up. This is an article that I seen on usnews.com in September of 2023. Cleveland ranked as the third poorest city in the United States with a median household income of $35,562.
Brothers, Cleveland, just like Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, places in South Carolina, North Carolina, places down in Georgia, Mississippi, all these various places, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Little Rock, Arkansas, places in Alaska, everywhere, there is a ghetto gangbanging culture. And the number one reason why there is a ghetto gangbanging culture is almost directly tied and correlated to a person's income. When you do not have a high income or do not have the financial means to sustain yourself, it's going to cause a lot of people to resort to crime. And unfortunately, in the black community, so-called black community, a lot of so-called black people are committing crimes against one another. So you have the poor robbing the poor. You have the oppressed robbing the oppressed. You have so-called black people robbing other so-called black people. So-called black people raping other so-called black people. So-called black people beating, bullying, harassing, and physically abusing other so-called black people. We killing ourselves at an all-time rate, at an extremely high rate, all over. People say I'm from this hood, or I'm from that hood, or I'm from Baltimore. Don't care. Doesn't matter what hood you're from. Every hood is destructive. The hood is destructive. I saw a really good Christian rap song on TikTok. Very good Christian rap song. I'm not Christian. I don't adhere to the Christian religion, but it was a very good so-called Christian rap song. But the brother continued to emit this hood, the gangster aura while he's rapping about God. Grill in his mouth, everything. A gangster Christian, a gangster Bible believer. Come on, man. We got to let go of the hood. We got to let go of it. It's destructive, and it's the poster. It's the president, the face of poverty. The ghetto culture. Ghetto people come from poverty. Rich and ghetto don't go together. They do not. Rich and ghetto don't go together. All people that are really rich, they let go of that ghetto stuff. That affects their bottom line. That affects their money. And it affects your life and your livelihood and your longevity, because your life is probably going to end a whole lot sooner with you carrying that hood nigga element on your shoulder. Get that hood nigga chip off your shoulder. I understand you stand up for yourself, but there has to be a redefining of what masculinity is within the so-called black man, because the so-called black man associates masculinity, being able to fight, toughness, all these things, being able to satisfy his woman sexually, even to down to that point, with being a so-called hood dude. A hood dude gonna hit it right. A hood dude, oh no, I need a dude this a hood dude that can fight. These are the things the so-called black woman feels about the so-called hood dude. The hood has to be destroyed completely.
Percent of residents with household income lower than $25,000 is 36.3%. That was as of 2023. This is from worldpopulationreview.com this year. Poverty in the United States is set by poverty threshold, which is a government set estimate of the point below which a household of a given size has a pre-tax income insufficient to meet minimum basic needs. They basically accumulated this list, 239 largest cities in the United States, with populations over 100,000. As of this year, Cleveland is the second poorest city In the United States, the median household income is $37,351.
That's very unfortunate. That's very unfortunate because what that means is that's a lot of so-called black people in that city that are suffering from poverty. And a lot of that poverty is voluntary. Voluntary. A lot of people choose to be on poverty. A lot of people choose to be on Section 8. A lot of people choose to be on benefits for the rest for their whole entire life. Those benefits, if used properly, can propel you to another level and to that next level to the point where you're no longer poor or in poverty if you utilize the system correctly. The vast majority of people are living off of the system. They get on the system. A lot of people want to collect unemployment checks and they live off unemployment. They're not looking for another job. When you are on unemployment and you're getting paid to do nothing, you're incentivized to do nothing. Why would you get off your behind? This was one of the huge problems that they had during the pandemic. One of the ways in which they destroyed the economy. When people were getting those unemployment checks during the pandemic, what occurred was it incentivized people to stay at home. Nobody wanted to go back to work. There were people getting paid $3,600, $3,800 on unemployment, and they weren't even making that at their old job. They were getting paid double what they were making before. What incentive would they have to go back? So if you giving a person unemployment, Section 8, food stamps, free housing, free food, all these things, what incentive do they have to get off of the system? So it's a poverty mindset, mind state and mindset. That's what it is. It starts in the mind, it starts in the brain, and that passes on from generation to generation. It's a lot of so-called black boys that only think the hood or the streets is the only answer when it comes to them making money. That's unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Because there's so many other ways for brothers to make money and make an honest living. And it doesn't help that brothers get on social media and they're getting put down all the time. They're telling you if you don't make a certain amount of money, then you can't provide as a man, then you aren't doing your job as a man, then you can't have a woman. And you know who that directly is targeting? The so-called black man, because the so-called black man has one of the lowest incomes in America. The so-called Caucasian doesn't even make the most income in his own country. The so-called Chinese people, Indian people, Pakistani people, they come over here and they outperform the so-called Caucasian in his own country. Small sample size. They don't have as big of a population over here, but they're outperforming. The so-called black man, he's underperforming. And are there things that are stopping us from going forward? Absolutely. But we have to start with ourselves. Start with ourselves. The number one thing that brothers keep doing to set themselves back in life is having a baby. A lot of niggas is not ready for a baby. No, you're not. Niggas having babies in their 20s. Most dudes in their 20s are not ready to have a baby. You're not at the mental level to lead a woman. Damn the baby. You have to deal with a woman. You have to deal with a grown ass woman in this society that can work for herself, take care of herself, provide for herself, satisfy herself sexually, do whatever she wants, has no boundaries or restrictions on what she can and cannot do, doesn't have to listen to you. You have to somehow get this woman. This woman is placed under a strong feminist programming by this society. You have to figure out a way or be able to lead and guide that woman in the event that you get her pregnant. You have to understand the enemy and the obstacles that are placed in front of you. The odds are you're not going to be in a long-term, committed, happy, loving relationship in this society, brothers. Newsflash, sorry to break it to you. You're probably not going to have the family that you want. Odds are the relationships that you come across, the girls you meet, the women you meet, most of them will not last. And if you do allow yourself to fall madly and insanely in love with a woman, whether it be because of her beauty or her bomb cooter mama that she's giving you, you're going to find yourself miserable because you're going to become what First Esdras says in the Apocrypha in the Bible. In First Esdras, the 3rd chapter, it says, and many become servants for their sake. They run out of their wits for the woman and become servants for their sake. A lot of men become servants to vagina. They can't let go of the cooter mama because they don't have an abundance of it in their life. or be whatever reason, or because they just fall madly in love with that woman because she has some type of spiritual chokehold over you. You get her pregnant. The woman is way harder to deal with than a child. Way harder. A child has to listen to you. A child has a level of necessity when it comes to you. If that child is depending on you for survival, the woman is not depending on you for survival in this society. She can take care of herself, or the government can take care of her. And when she knows she has those options, that's going to lead to a level of disregard and lack of respect when it comes to you. And these are things we have to understand, brothers. These are the number one things that are setting us as black men back, is our inability to control our ding-a-ling. Just call it what it is, the wee-wee, whatever you want to call it. Have to control it. Anyways, let's tap back into this.
That was updated January 10th, 2024. The 2.6 billion that he just got on the back end, the 20%, falls around how much it would cost to build a brand new stadium. So I double down on what I said before. I got a hard time with a billionaire owner coming to the mayor of the city.
Well, first thing we have to understand is Jimmy Haslam can do whatever he wants. He owns that team. So if the city of Cleveland is not going to help him pay for that city or for that stadium, that dome, he has the ability to say, I'll take this team from you. I'll pack this shit up and move. I'll move to a different state, a different location. You won't have a team. You won't have a football team. And I promise you that will not happen. The Cleveland Browns fans will not let that happen. So he has leverage. He has a lot of leverage. And he's going to get his way more than likely. He's not going to pay the entirety of this, because the mindset is, if I'm just going to pay all of it, I might as well go somewhere else. Or I'll go somewhere else where I can make a team out of scratch for less money. These are things that he can do. So we have to understand that.
Cleveland, who grew up poor in the projects, by the way, saying, hey, I need your taxpayers to help me pay for this stadium, when you got so much more pressing issues. Like, in a nutshell, if we keep it in 100, we a broke ass city, right? We a poor city. I just have a hard time with a billionaire coming to me saying, hey, I need you to pay for this. Now, on the flip side, I understand the pros.
The reason why Cleveland and a lot of other cities are poor cities is not that their inner city is poor. When you have major sports teams in your town, you're going to generate a lot of revenue. The problem is the outskirts and things of that nature, not just the inner city, but, outside of the inner city. Those are where the projects are, the Section 8 housing are, the bandos are, the trap houses are, the hoe houses are, the hookers are. That's where all that stuff is at. That's where all that stuff is going on, the underground trafficking and stuff like that. That's where all that stuff is happening at. You have to get rid of all of that. If you get rid of all of that, the city in itself would be much more affluent, if that's the word. It would be much more wealthy. You have to get rid of a lot of this crime. And it's not a white thing or it's not a black thing or a white thing necessarily. It's, in general, it's a poverty thing and it's a money thing. There's a lot of money in, quote unquote, a woman selling her body. There's a lot of money in trafficking, whether it's organs, children, or for sexual intercourse. There's a lot of money in that stuff. There's a lot of money in drugs, drug dealing. You can make a lot of money being a drug dealer if you know what you're doing and very successful at it. Very much so. There's a lot of money in someone committing certain homicidal acts. There is money in that, believe it or not. There are some gangs that, in order for you to be a part of that game and associated with that game, you have to go catch a body to prove that you're down with the cause. There's certain gangs like that. So sometimes these meaningless crimes or meaningful crimes can be gang related. Oftentimes, a lot of times, they're gang related.
And cons, like the economical and political backfire it can have if the Browns do not play downtown. I talked to a former councilwoman who served as a councilwoman for over 15 years, and she flat out told me, like, it would be catastrophic if the Browns were to leave downtown, but the city doesn't have much leverage. The owners have all the leverage. The best thing we could do is try to find a way to meet in the middle, but they will have to heavily incentivize us. So, like, what does that mean? You would have to invest in jobs in the community. You would have to invest in development in the community. And so, like,
Yep, you would have to invest in jobs in the community, development in the community, and what that would mean is gentrification. The whole crutch of this video, the foundation of this video, gentrification. If you were going to invest in a community like that and develop a community, you're not going to have poor people still living there. And you're damn sure not going to have people with a poor state of mind still living there, because all they're going to do is tear all the shit up that you building up. All everything you're building up, they're going to tear it down. So you got to get all the NIGGAs up out of there. You got to get all the baby mamas and baby daddies up out of there. You got to get all the people that's in and out of jail up out of there, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to sustain the stuff that you're building. There's a lot of property. There's a lot of buildings and that are run down in the city of Cleveland. Many, just like I'm sure there are in Detroit and Philadelphia and all these other cities and Chicago and all these other cities. These things can be rebuilt. They can. But in the process of that, they're going to kick a lot of people out.
if you want the city to help pay for it, you're going to have to make sure the city gets something on the back end. Because the saddest part about all of this, knowing that this is a poor city and we got to pay for it, how many people can really afford in the city of Cleveland to take a family of 4 to a Browns game on Sunday? They've really made it damn near unaffordable to do so.
Then the question is, why are those people living in Cleveland? Clearly, the city of Cleveland is not for the people in the city of Cleveland. Their fan base are the people that are living in the suburbs that are 45 to an hour away outside of Cleveland, that have the money and the financial means to be able to drive downtown and pay for $500, $600 tickets just on a random Thursday in, February.
Ty, what do you think?
I don't think he's wrong in any way. First of all, I want to start off by saying Jimmy Haslam, let me borrow something. I'm good for it. I mean, not that I'm good for it. Technically, you don't even need it back. I ain't asking for a lot either. Just a couple dollars. I am an employee of yours, so you want to throw me a little something. I appreciate it. But no, I think Earl is right. It is tough to ask. How can you ask a poor city to help you build something when they already don't have it anyways? It's so hard in the day-to-day life. Like, everybody is struggling, and we get on this Instagram and Twitter and all these things, and people live these false worlds about how they got all this money, and in the actuality of things, people don't got it like that. People are struggling out there. So,
Yes, brothers. People are struggling out here, brothers. Especially you younger brothers out there that are not as vigilant yet to the BS. A lot of these girls out here that are telling you need to make this amount of money and stuff like that on social media. A lot of them are broke. A lot of them are poor. And brothers, I feel so sorry for brothers that are in high school today. When I was in high school, social media was out, and you can go on social media. You could talk to a little girl and stuff like that, and your age and stuff like that, and 14, 15, 16, 17 years old in high school, whatever. You could talk to them. Now, I don't think any 14-year-old, 15-year-old boy can talk to any girl in his high school if he doesn't have 10,000 followers on Instagram or something like that. You have to have status and acclaim now. These girls are walking around like they're celebrities and they're only 16 years old. They're allowed to post pictures half naked on the gram. Parents see nothing wrong with it if their parents know they're doing it. It's way harder and it's only getting worse. This society has infected the children, it's infected the youth, and the youth is the future. And unfortunately, I don't think this society is going to be able to sustain itself much longer at the rate in which the youth is being destroyed, in the way in which their minds are being corrupted. There are a lot of healthy people in our community, but there are also a lot of toxic, corrosive, unhealthy, destructive, cancerous people that exist within our community as well. And those elements have to be extinguished. That fire has to be extinguished. It has to be put out. If it's not put out, it's just going to spread and spread and spread and burn everything down. It's going to burn the whole house down. So brothers, you got to ask yourself, man, are you adding to the fire, or are you trying to put out the flames? But anyways, brothers, I don't want to make this video too long. I'm going to sign out of this. I think we get the point.